All right. Well, we got a pretty good group of people on the line here, so we'll go ahead and get going. I just appreciate everybody taking a few minutes. We really want to do something informal. We've been working on a new version of the dashboard for the last couple of months, and I guess there's a couple reasons for that. We'll get into in a few minutes, but I want to make sure that everybody here is. It's really going to be really informal. I hope that you ask some questions. I hope you participate in the webinar because I don't have a ton of things I'm going to speak to. Like it's more of just a preview of what's coming and show you some of the features and a little bit of the timeline about when we're going to roll this thing out. So I'm going to go through a little bit here. It's more of a sneak peek and let you guys take a look at it and provide some feedback to us, and then show you a little bit about what we're doing here. So most of you probably know who I am, so I won't really go on into that. A little bit about what we've been doing. Most of you are probably familiar with the dashboard. You probably use it hopefully on a regular basis. We ended up launching that back in 2015, about the middle of the year in 2015. And really when we built it at the time, it was more of give me something that I can really keep an eye on what's going on with my script. So I've got, maybe I've got a couple machines, or maybe I've got 10 machines or 15 or whatever the case may be. And, it's kind of hard once things start to scale up about trying to stay on top of scripts and making sure that they're running like they're supposed to, making sure that if I've got errors, I know where they are and that sort of stuff. So it really, the original launch of this was to basically monitor scripts and make sure everything was working. A couple years later, we added the scheduling piece to it, also in 2017, towards the end of 2017. And that kind of came out of, again, kind of same problem where you've got a bunch of different machines and you're managing schedules. A lot of people are probably still using some of the Windows task scheduler to be able to schedule scripts and do things there. If you have a small number of things you're doing, that probably works. But we added this to be able to have a centrally located place to be able to schedule scripts, and so it gives you the ability to set something up to schedule it. If something has a schedule, you can also go to the dashboard and launch it manually. You can terminate something from the dashboard as well. So all that functionality we added in there to be able to do a little more control. So have some more control of what your scripts are doing. What we've done now is just overhaul the UI. It looks a bit different. It has, we're going to launch that obviously this year. We refreshed the UI. So we've had a couple of other products we've been working on that we incorporated a new web UI to, and we thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to redesign the dashboard a little bit too, improve the experience based on some of the things we've learned over the years, and also taking a little bit of different approach in terms of providing more data to you. So you'll see what I mean by that here in a little bit. A couple of things I wanted to point out too in terms of features. We've added a new page. So when you sign in, you're going to see this in a minute, but there's a new sort of landing page, if you will, that is a high level view of what's going on with your whole operation. Whereas before, when you logged in, you went straight to the system view, and you had one machine that you selected, and that's the first one in the list is the one that you got. So this overview page is going to give you some information about your systems. It's going to tell you whether things are offline or not, give you kind of a summary status for your entire dashboard about how many scripts you have that are running, what status they're in, that sort of stuff. We also made some changes to the script and the task details pages, and you'll see what I mean by that. Again, with the old dashboard or the current dashboard you're using, we have the system view, which you can pick one system at a time to view what's going on with that one. We've expanded the ability now. We can select multiple machines. We actually got rid of one of the views. The script view is going to go away because we kind of combine these together. So, and your selections, if you select multiple machines now and you go from the scripts to the task, all your selections stay the same. If you go look at the history, your scripts stay the same. If you go look at the calendar, the machines that you have selected all stay the same. So there's hopefully a benefit there of kind of picking your favorite machines that you normally work on, and they stay selected as you log in and out of the machine, or in and out of the dashboard. We added the ability to, you'll see this as well, to schedule tasks directly from the scripts details page. So formerly, like the big grid where you have, all of your data there that shows what's going on with your scripts, we added the ability to just, if we have a script that's running on the page and we want to create a task for it, we can just click a button and it'll bring up the create window and we can just do it from there. So you'll see what that looks like in a minute as well. And I talked about a little bit about additional data. There's some things we're trying to move in a more direction of showing you, how we're going to do some other cool things too, I think that you'll like. But right now we're kind of looking at each machine, has this many scripts that it has run on it. It has this many tasks that are associated with it. This system is offline or this system is online. So we're doing some diagnostic and a little bit of data aggregation about what's going on with those machines. Give you some insight around like script categories, for example, are they being used or not? How many scripts are tagged with this? We want to be doing some reporting around some things like that as well. So there's more to come on that part of it. I'm not going to have a whole lot more to show on that today, but just wanted to introduce that. All right, so I'm going to flip over now and take a look at it real quick. The big unveil. All right, so this is the login screen. It's kind of got a new style or new branding on it as well. That was one of the things we wanted to do. We had, it's been labeled the dashboard for a while. This is just part of EMUE now. I mean, when you get EMUE, you get the dashboard. Everybody gets it. Everybody can use it. So I'm going to log in here. And the first page that we're going to come to is that landing page that I had mentioned before. So this is sort of what you'll see the first time you come in. We're calling it the overview page. You'll see here that this is my dashboard, and it has 18 systems. It has 12 of them that are online. Obviously, 6 of them are off. One of the things we're going to provide here is the names of those systems. If for some reason they're off network or they're not checking in regularly with the dashboard, then we'll list those things here so you know which ones to go look at. So that's something that's going to be new there. You can see that these 18 systems that I have on my dashboard, I've run over the course of time about 3,000 scripts on these. Right now, I can expand this and it gives me a status of everything on my dashboard. So I don't have a lot that's running on mine because I don't use it a whole lot for my purposes, but I've got 4 that have completed. I've got 17 that are scheduled. Nothing is currently running, and I don't have anything in these statuses either. We'll be able to click on these directly from this page. So if for some reason I want to go look at all of my ones that I have that didn't start on time, I can click on this. It's going to take me to the page to show me all the machines and filter out the ones that are scheduled and the ones that are missed. So I can just get a quick look at it. If there's something glaring on this home page that I want to go dive into, I can just look at it from here and go directly to it. So, and over here on the right-hand side, this is just a summary of tasks that are created and scheduled. So for today, and obviously you click on these buttons, it'll take you to the regular scripts and tasks. So again, we've consolidated this. If I go over now and click on scripts, this is what it looks like. A lot of colors on the page, but over here on the left-hand side is now where our systems live. If you remember, one of the things I wanted to really improve is across the top here, we had a bunch of, if you had a lot of machines, it really took up almost half the screen sometimes, in some cases, or 2 or 3 rows at least across the top. So there's a lot of space that was just dedicated to machines. I mean, it still is over here, but you've at least got some vertical space here to be able to see what's going on with your scripts. So on the left-hand side, over here's all the machines that you could possibly select that are allocated to this dashboard. We've made some shortcuts here too. This is the place where you can rename something if you want to give it an alias. This is where you rename it. So it's directly on this card. Again, there's some information about these machines that give you kind of insight really whether or not they're being utilized as well. So you can see this machine has 1,264 scripts and 2 scheduled tasks. So there's a lot of stuff that runs on it, not a lot of stuff that's scheduled, and so on and so forth. So I use this for some testing quite a bit. So there's not a lot on here. But you can turn these things on and off by just deselecting. It'll refresh the page based on what you pick. If I take that one off, there's not really going to be anything there. Turn it back on. And then you get all of your data allocated to these machines here, or that are associated with it. This little shortcut here is where you can go add script categories or add process monitors or process riders, that sort of thing. So if you wanted to go to the machine and look at all the scripts that are on this machine, then you can go and change some settings on it. So this is basically filtering out based on the machine that you want to select. These are all of your statuses up here at the top. There's nothing running right now. You can see I've got 3 that are scheduled that are coming up. I can continue to start them as I did before. If you look at what I was talking about earlier, you can see that these NPI scripts right here, they have a task created and associated with it. So we can directly just right from here, we can open up the task that's associated with it. And if we wanted to change something on it, we could just do it from here, really without having to go over to the task view. So there's less, again, switching back and forth in between different screens on the page. So a lot of what you want to do, you're going to be able to do directly from here. And if you don't have something that's already got one created, okay, it'll tell you here there's not one that's created for these. We can just click the plus button. We'll add a new one. And then you can just fill out the information. It basically populates everything for you, knows the system, knows the application, knows the pathway to the process, even puts the command line syntax in here for you. So there's a lot less work involved with creating these things. Just have to enter a name and then pick when you want it to run. Consolidated a little bit of information too. You'll see that there's not nearly as many columns across here as they used to be. We put the most important stuff I think that people want to see here in terms of what started, the statuses, of course. We put a lot of stuff in this first box here. And if you have things like who it was scheduled by, or there's a process monitor or a process rider, some of those other fields, we put a bubble here that you can hover over. And if that stuff is populated, it'll show up here. It's not something that you need to see for every record, so you can go check it out if you want to. Again, a lot of style differences here. You can also see that the exceptions show up over here underneath the processed record. So we'll see how many processed and how many exceptions we had. One thing that I'll do here in just a minute is jump over to somebody's machine or somebody else's dashboard and see some probably more information than what I have on mine. A little bit about these numbers up here at the top. You'll see a lot of scripts up here. This is the total number of scripts for the number of machines that you have selected. Okay. So this is just a sum of all the ones that you see here on the individual cards. If you look over here on the today button, you'll see that there are 10 for today. So this lets you know how many are in the current grid here. This applies to today. If we go look at history, then obviously you'll see what's on the history tab as well. All that stuff stayed the same, so there'll be the ability to export it just like we used to. We got the search fields here. You can search a screen here. If you go over to tasks, then again, this looks very similar to the other screen here, but it's just different information. If something is here, the buttons for disabling and enabling and starting and that sort of stuff is there. If we want to do bulk actions, so a lot of times you want to maybe move something from one machine to another, or you want to disable a group of scripts or enable a group of scripts. once you select multiple ones, the buttons get a little pop-up here that show you where the controls are up here. So if you want to enable them, you can do that, or disable, delete them, whatever you want to do. Those buttons go away after you deselect the check boxes, but the actions will show up over here on this side. And then if we, again, you can also create a new task from here as well, just by clicking the plus button. Get the same screen that we had before. For people who are have multiple dashboards, this is a cool feature that I like a lot. Being on the support side, we see a lot of dashboards out there when we log in, but somebody like Moffitt or somebody like Baptist may have multiple dashboards, and so you can select your organization, and then you have the ability just to pick an individual one. Again, so maybe you don't get mixed up, or maybe there's not so much information on the screen and try to figure out which dashboard I'm on. Now we just pick the one we want, and that's the one we get. So one other thing too about this is that here I don't have any machines selected currently. That's why there's 0 scripts and 0 tasks. You can see here this particular machine had an error, so its text is in red, and there's a badge there to let you know how many are in the error state. Same thing with this one down here. So this one had encountered an error at some point. It's still processing, but it did encounter one as well. Okay, so and up here is the tags that are, or the what we call formerly the categories that you can filter out as well if you want to do that. I guess one of the last things I'll show you here before we stop and unmute the lines. I think I need to unmute the lines, but here on the manage screen, this is where we see all of the users that are associated with the dashboard. Here's all the systems that we have. Here's the categories that are defined, and here's how many scripts they're being used on. And then here's all your process monitor, process writer roles that you can assign to scripts as well. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward here, but if adding new users can do that. If you want to remove machines, remove users, you can do that, all that stuff as well. So this is really the management portion of it. So if you're a dashboard admin, you'll have access to this screen. Also, if you're a data-bound admin, which is most of us, but if you're a user who has rights to read only or be able to modify a few things on the screen, you won't be able to get to this. But this is for the people who are really managing the dashboard for your organization. You can rename dashboards, change the time zone, all those things are up here. If you want to add, I guess you wouldn't be able to add a new organization, but if you want to add another dashboard, you can do that. We've got a few of you that have multiple ones, so this is where you would do that as well. I want to jump back to one thing on the script view real quick that I didn't show. If we click on Manage Scripts here, this is one last screen that I didn't show you before. So right now I've got this one system selected. Here's the 2 scripts that have run on the machine. So I have the ability to, do the things that we've done before. So we preserved all the backward compatible features that we had. Probably not a lot of you use this feature, these features perhaps, but they're here. You have the ability to look at the script tags and the roles, and here's where you would modify that information. So if you wanted something to show up under a custom filter, then you would come in here and assign it to a category. Here's the path to the script, so you can see which one this is actually running on your system. Here's the schedules that are affiliated with this particular script as well. It's got 2 tasks that kick it off. Looks like there's maybe that's a duplicate. It's possible that it is. And you have the ability to turn off scripts in the dashboard. So if you don't want them to show up, you can hide them as well. So that's the manage script view. Again, if you select multiple ones, you have all of the scripts that show up for these particular machines. And then a couple things that I use for messaging. I'll just show this, but it doesn't really pertain much to the group. This is where we have the ability to post banner messages. So when we get ready to do updates or we've got a new feature that we want to highlight or something like that, we can post messages up here for people to see and compose messages out to the group, to all of our users by role if we want to do that. So jump back to the script view real quick. One of the other things, if you want more real estate, you can expand this and then you've got everything on one page. So there's some cool things in there I think will help at least our users be able to get more out of the dashboard, and hopefully the information is organized in a really good fashion for you, and we'll be giving you some more kind of diagnostic and status information that hopefully will be helpful as you manage your scripts and your processes going forward. So I'm going to stop here and let me see if I can unmute. Also, if you have any questions, you can feel free to type them into the chat. All right, let's take a look at the QA. Good question, Doug. When will the new UI be available? I've got the answer to that question here coming up in just a minute. I've got a couple more slides I want to go through to wrap this up, so I'll talk about the timeline on that in just a minute. Let's look at a couple other things in the chat here. Eva, this looks great. When do we see it? Again, timeline. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Latara, good question. Did we ever solve for not running a scheduled script if something is already running? That's a little bit different. That's a more functional question. Doesn't really necessarily incorporated into the UI here. We've got some other things that we're working on for functional pieces for that as well. We should have the ability to prevent something from running if there is something running already. So that might be more of a support question. We maybe could dig into that one offline, and we can take a look at it. But we have the ability right now, if we come in here and look at tasks, when we come up here to the start tab, don't run if something else is already running. So we can turn this off and prevent other things from kicking off as well. So that might be what you're looking for. If it's not, we can dig into that a little bit further.
Kelly, and this is obviously like the client's first time seeing the new dashboard as well, but like what, as a product manager, what is the biggest thing you're most excited for clients to experience with the new interface?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's kind of limiting some of the places that you can go to find things. We've kind of, like I said, we consolidated the views a little bit, so there's not as much going back and forth, hopefully, where, you have your scripts on your main scripts view here, and you have the ability to look at the task associated with and really do everything mainly from one screen here. So there's a lot less back and forth, scheduling things, looking at tasks. I got to go over here to create a task. I got to go back to look at it, see if it's running, that sort of stuff. And then the overview page is one that I really like, which is, again, one of the things that we're trying to move towards is how do we have this data, obviously, that is very useful, I think. In particular, like these where we have the systems and all that kind of stuff is really critical to scheduling. So being able to expand on what we've done here to be able to provide more information, like, if you wanted to have like a group of scripts that run together for a particular project or something like that, how can we report maybe information about those groups of tasks together? For instance, if you've got a financial clearance process, I know Moffitt, that's one of the things that they use EMUE heavily for. How do we present the information that EMUE is doing in a way that shows them the value they're getting out of EMUE as well, and maybe utilization, that sort of stuff. So I think starting with this overview page and then expanding from there in terms of the data that we can provide and insight on what's going on, I think is going to be one of the things that I'm probably most excited about. I've been wanting to do that for a while, kind of instrumentation on what scripts are doing as well. So that's pretty cool, exciting for me. I like the data. There's one question too from Steve. Also, let me just make sure I address that real quick. Is there a place where you can see the name of the input file being processed? We use dates in our file name, so the dashboard is a convenient place to make sure the correct day's file is being processed. Yeah, that's one of those things, Steve, that's going to show up in that tooltip. And not all of these have input files, so I can't really show you, but it would show up here in this little hover over in this information bubble. So I don't know how critical that is. Again, that's something that we can address depending on how heavily that's being utilized. But it should be available here as part of the data set. We didn't really get rid of anything. We just kind of reorganized it. So it's still there.
I also want to ask if there's anybody, this is your first time seeing the dashboard, if anybody has any feedback or just like thoughts about what we're showing here.
The chat's probably the best way to do that. While you're thinking about that and providing any feedback on it, looks like Doug has another question as well. In what order do the servers show? Can you sort by server name or server alias? They are sorted by, right now they're sorted by what you have selected over here. So the one you have at the top of the list is the one that shows up first here. All those scripts do. We can provide the ability to sort based on that. I'm not sure if this is sorting on the name. It looks like it's sorting on the name then the machine. That's something we can look at doing as well. There's a lot of information in this first column here, so to pick one thing to sort it on, I think we went with the script name instead of the machine name. But the way they show up is based on I think the system that you have selected over here on the left. And if there is an alias associated with it, it does show the alias first. If it doesn't, then it shows the full machine name. I don't know if we have any of those on here or not, but looks like all of these have aliases. Can you sort by machine names on the left? Yes, you can. There's a sorting column up here. Okay. Let's see, do we have some more? There's some more stuff in the chat here. Doug, looks great, much cleaner. Doug, thanks for your input. Appreciate it. George, you touched on not running scripts when other scripts are running, but we want the script not to run when the same script is already running. Okay. Again, yeah, let's take that question offline. I think that's more of a feature function request versus how things work in the UI. So George and Lotar, I'll touch base with you guys after we wrap up here. But thank you for the questions. All right. We've got some more. Tim. I do a lot of searching for scripts across all systems, often not knowing the name. Is that the left or right search? So good question. So this search up here is just strictly for the systems. I would say most of you are probably not going to have 71 systems sitting out there, so you're not probably going to use this one as much. But if you're sorting or searching across what's in the data tables, then it's this search here to be able to look in the grid. Yep, same thing, same search. This is the search for the data, in the grid. So, if you selected all the machines and then you did a search, it would all show up just like it normally does right now with the current dashboard. Excellent questions, folks. Have I missed any so far? There is not yet a toggle for all systems. It is forthcoming. It will be in there before we release it, but right now it's not there. Okay. Nicole, anything to consider or concerns for client after conversion regarding scripts currently scheduled or user security? Good question. That's also part of my closing argument, if you will, about how to get ready for it. What do you need to do? That's a pretty straightforward answer, but let me just flip back over right now to the presentation and answer some of the questions on the timing and what you need to do. So So how to get ready for it. We're sending out a lot of announcements about this. We're going to send out some follow-up email or a follow-up email as well with an attachment with a document on it that talks about, some of the features we discussed today, some of the timing, that sort of stuff. So we'll be communicating that. To your question, Nicole, all the existing scripts and tasks are going to be there. We're using the same database, so the back end of this is exactly the same as it was before. It's just using a different UI. So anything that you have scheduled now is going to be there. All the historical data that you have, you're going to be able to go pull it up on, and just like you do now. Your task will stay scheduled, all that sort of stuff. So from a user standpoint, there's really not anything to do. Your user accounts also remain the same. There's no change in security unless you want to go in as an admin and change security. So you use your same username, your same password you used to get in now. And then we're working on a training video. Danica is our lead trainer here, and so she's working on a training video as well to kind of talk about some of the features and highlight the main things we want to share with everybody. So after this is over with, and this is a month later, and you guys are on it, if you have questions, there's always going to be that resource available for you. And we're working on some documentation as well. The documentation that we have current is related to the layout of the old dashboard, so we've got to do some updates on that. So it's really minimal, I think, for overall from what you clients need to do and users need to do to get ready for it. It's really just going to be logging into a new website and using the new user interface. So it's pretty straightforward there. On the timeline, so today we actually released this internally, so we're going to take some time to work out any kind of issues that we've come across. We've been testing this obviously for several weeks now, so we're going to take about a couple of weeks internally to go through that and make sure that we get everything squared away before we release it out. There's another few features, as you guys heard me talk about earlier, some of the sorting, some of the selectors and that sort of stuff. We want to make sure we get that in there before we let it go. My plan is to do a sort of limited release at first. I want to get a couple of clients, and I know some of you have voiced interest in being able to help use this early on, and I'm going to reach out to some of you if you want to do that. I don't want to release it fully yet until we've had the ability to, again, have clients use it in a real production environment and make sure everything's working like it's supposed to. One of the good things we're going to do is we're going to retain the current version of the dashboard for a period of time. So that's kind of the next thing. I want to do a limited release for a few clients for a couple of weeks and make sure everything's going okay. And then after that, generally available for everybody else. So I'm saying 12/14, maybe sooner if things go well. I don't anticipate any big issues, but that would probably be the latest it would be. Like I said, we're going to have the original dashboard that's still there. So if something for some reason doesn't work, you're going to have the ability to go back to the old one until we can get it resolved. So there's a kind of that use the new user experience if you want to do that for a while, or if you want to go back to the old one. We're going to keep it up for a little while. Originally, I wanted to try to cut it off at the end of the year, but I think we're probably going to have to push that over to probably sometime in January. So it'll still be available for the next few months. So there's no necessarily rush to go over to it. And we'll be there again for security purposes in case something doesn't work and we need to revert. We'll have the other one available. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. I appreciate everybody joining this afternoon. One last call on questions if there's anything else that anybody has or wants to mention before we go. We've got about 5 minutes left. Otherwise, we can let things go here. What browser platforms is this available for? Recommend using it on Chrome. it'll work on Firefox. It'll work on Edge. There are some challenges with Internet Explorer that we chose not to spend a lot of time trying to support. We did a survey to kind of gauge feedback on that. There was more positivity around using other browsers than IE. So I know some of you use that, but we didn't. There might be some issues around some things in IE. We chose not to support that. And browsers can end up going away, and we're trying to make sure we're up on the latest technologies there. So that's where we are. Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Safari, all the usual ones. Okay. All right. Well, appreciate the questions. If you have anything you want to ask me afterwards, obviously you all have my email. You can just contact me directly. And again, appreciate everybody's time. I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon.